Hello friends, my name is Marines, and today I want to talk to you about problematic content. What that means, if you can like problematic things, and some of the things that are problematic that I like. Bear with me as I get through all of this because it's kind of an unwieldy subject and one that puts people on the defensive right out of the gate. I'll start off by telling you what I'm not going to do in this video. I'm not going to tell you what to read or what to watch or what not to read or what not to watch. Read and watch whatever your heart desires. All I'm trying to do with this video is take a more comprehensive and hopefully nuanced look at this idea of problematic, especially because it is or has been such a hot topic. Firstly, I think a lot of the friction around this idea or this term comes because it is a blanket term and people use it as a blanket term. Because of this, you'll see two kinds of upset when this term is used. One, from people who think that the term is overused and applied to everything. Two, from people who think this term is used to avoid or gloss over bigger and scarier words like racist and misogynistic and homophobic, etc. For me personally, I've always understood the term problematic to mean something below unconsumable, like a tier below. If you Google the word problematic, the definition that comes up is constituting or presenting a problem or difficulty. And I think that applies well. Some of the listed synonyms include tricky, troublesome, or complicated. To me, something that is problematic is a text that has good portions, but then it has this element or elements that are tricky or complex or complicated. A good question when it comes to this topic is whether or not the term problematic is being overused. Like here it comes again, something else is problematic. Another good question is whether or not problematic stems from bad writing. Are things that are problematic really just crappily written? I don't think so on either count. I don't think that things that are problematic can always be tied back to lack of skill. I also don't think that it's overkill to say that lots and lots of things are problematic, because lots and lots of things are. I find it a little bit funny that people take more exception over the fact that the word is being used or applied to something than the fact that there are so many problematic things out there. Art and media are created by people, and people, hey, have a lot of problems. Everything we read, from the news written by imperfect journalists to YA or sci-fi and fantasy or whatnot written by imperfect authors, comes with that person's biases and their experiences kind of built in. Our experiences, our worldview informs what we write and what we create. And they can be an amazing author otherwise with lots of skill, but they still bring to the table their own biases or experiences or prejudices. As with all things, I just think we get the most value when we discuss. I don't think it is very valuable to just say that everything is problematic and leave it there. I believe that the value comes when we discuss how it's problematic and where it's problematic and kind of extrapolate from there instead of just sticking the label on everything and running away. It's helpful when we can talk about what those elements are, how they show up, what they mean, especially in a community like this. It becomes tricky, I know, because as consumers, most of what we have is buying power. If something is anywhere between unconsumable to problematic, it's easy as an advocate to say, don't buy this book. Stories full of appropriation or about the dark-skinned aggressor or whatever else won't stop being everywhere if they don't stop being successful. And they won't stop being successful, at least in the eyes of publishers, if we don't stop buying them. Now, I said I wasn't going to tell you what to read or watch or buy, because at the end of the day, the choice of where to put your money behind is yours. The choices we make, even when it comes to buying books and where to put our money, comes with gives and takes, just like every other choice that we make. You might be so interested or curious about a book that you are able to ignore warnings that it's racist, for instance. So you've effectively prioritized your curiosity and potential enjoyment of a book over standing with the marginalized, listening to them, and showing the seller, showing the publisher that these kinds of books won't be successful. And that's okay in so much as that's your choice. I will say that the one thing I don't understand is the impulse to derail conversations about problematic things. If you're seeing a conversation go on about a problematic aspect in something that you love or really want to consume, why would you jump in there to derail it and say, I love that thing, or I want to try it myself. I'm always honestly, like, truly astounded by people who jump into these conversations just to announce that they're going to ignore everybody's opinion and do their own thing. Again, you can, but I think it's worth it in this case to take a step back and ask yourself why you feel the need or the impulse to jump into these conversations to announce your love or your intent. At the end of the day, we're all bound to come up against some media that is problematic. For some reason, it seems to be surprisingly difficult for people to admit that something that they love is problematic, probably because we think it's some reflection of us as people. We prefer to think that something we love can't be problematic because we love it. Period. I think in order to enjoy problematic content responsibly, you have to be willing to recognize that it is problematic and resist the urge to derail conversations about its problematic aspects. We must be willing to accept opinions or interpretations of the story that are different from our own. I got to thinking about this because I haven't really read much at all this year, so I started playing video games and I picked back up with Witcher 3. I didn't make it very far because, again, as I was playing, I got the urge to read the books. I read books 1 through 3 last year, and I reread books 1 through 3 this month. Hopefully, I'll move on to 4. I really am enjoying these books. I love the characters, and I find that the world is so interesting. I love the Witcher series. The Witcher series is also problematic. My first time reading the first book, my review had kind of this hazy mention that there's this slight misogynistic feeling in the story. I think I specifically said that you couldn't help feeling that Geralt was going to make out with every female character that was introduced, either in the video game or in the books. Upon reread, I was like, oh. This series treats its women very weirdly. It's not enough that I would say that this is unconsumable, but it is enough that I would label this problematic. There are very powerful women characters throughout the series, but they seem to be sexualized in super casual ways. I actually, in my re-review of the first book, I went through and I mentioned every woman that came up, and they were either always monsters or sexualized, or the most positive portrayals were of women who were silent or nearly silent. Honestly, it happens like 3 times in the first book where the woman is okay, but she also doesn't speak, doesn't say anything. So it's at that point where you start asking yourself if the author has some weird ideas about silent women. In some ways, this is kind of counterbalanced with Ciri and Yennefer, 2 very powerful and prominent women characters who Geralt would do anything for. However, the broad misogynistic strokes are there, they're noticeable, and they tar an otherwise very enjoyable series. Some of my favorite characters of all time come from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I love Buffy. Buffy is also problematic. Buffy, the character, and the series are often touted as being super feminist. In a lot of ways, it is. Buffy kicks ass, but she's also allowed to be emotionally vulnerable. Buffy is a chosen one, but she's also got this group of friends. Buffy is super strong, but she's also fashionable and cute, and it's just such an amazing and complex portrayal of this woman superhero. However, it took me a while to even get back to a place where I could say that I enjoyed or loved Buffy, because I struggled with it throughout the middle because her Buffy sexuality is just not handled well at all. We call it the tragic magic vagina over on Snark Squad. The first time Buffy ever had sex, she stole a man's soul. Her next partner, they opened some sort of like demon wormhole while they were having sex. Like, her third partner ends up being like a liar, and she goes through something there as well. And then, I don't want to get into super spoilery territory, but there is also an attempted rape. I'm not one of those people that says that like rape and abuse can't be in fiction. I think it can be. However, in this instance, the rape is centered on the rapist, and it's used to spark his redemption arc. Plus, talking about this attempted rape totally ignores the fact that I think Buffy's lack of consent was ignored earlier, and if you ask me my definition of what rape is, I believe that Buffy was raped even before the big attempted rape. I could talk about this forever because it really got to me, specifically because I enjoyed the characters, and if I wasn't so invested in this otherwise, it wouldn't upset me so much, this thing that it got wrong. Does the handling of her sexuality negate the groundbreaking storytelling, the amazing characters, and the other things that are really wonderful about the show? No, but I always drop into discussions about Buffy that I enjoy it, but it does have problematic aspects. I'd love to hear what you guys think. What do you guys consider problematic? How do you define that? What are some of your problematic favorites? Also, if you guys have any questions, any things that I didn't cover in my video, you can feel free to leave them down in the comments for me. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. So my shelves were kind of up, and then I took them all down and bought 2 new shelves, so that is still in the works, which is why I'm still sitting on the floor in my living room, and also my camera is still broken, which is why I'm doing this on the iPhone, which is okay, but it does funny things to the sound in my mouth. And then don't get upset because you can't read anything. You can read whatever you want, and nobody would know about it if you didn't jump into a Twitter conversation and announce it.